Hello and welcome to Comics with B and W. I'm Wilson, and with me as always is
Bobby, that's me.
And on today's show, we're going to be discussing The Wrong Earth, a comic from publisher Ahoy Comics, written and edited by Tom Peyer, with art by Jamal Igle, colors by Andy Troy, and lettering by Rob Sting. So, welcome to our second episode. If you're here after listening to our first episode, welcome back. If this is your first episode, hello. We are a podcast focusing exclusively on the best indie comics. If you want to know more about us, please check out our first episode where we discuss Dead Legends.
So, getting into today's subject itself, we'll start off with a little non-spoiler discussion, for those of you unfamiliar with the book. Wrong Earth is the story of Dragonfly and Dragonfly Man, an Adam West Batman pastiche and a dark and gritty Batman pastiche who end up on each other's worlds and have to adjust while searching for a way home. It's primarily a comedy, and it excels as one, but like many of the best comedies, it has plenty of emotional moments that will punch you right in the gut, and more than a few surprises that you wouldn't expect based off the premise.
Yeah, this is actually a comic that you recommended to me because I had said I wanted to read more indie comics, and this is one of the first ones. This is one of the first ones I read, and it was off your recommendation. Which thank you for that. I don't know if I ever said that.
Oh yeah, you have. Like Wilson said, this book comes to us from Ahoy Comics, and it's essentially their flagship title. It was the book from their initial launch that got the most promotion, and it's continued to get sequels to this day. Now, I have a very large bias toward Ahoy as a company. I love what they stand for. I love most of the books that they put out, and I've been supporting them since day one. Tom Peyer, the head of the company and the writer of The Wrong Earth, is one of my all-time favorite writers. His work on 90s DC books was incredible. And just year after year, Ahoy puts out quality title after quality title. Wrong Earth and its multiple sequels is probably their best stuff. But just to quickly give some other recommendations, check out Second Coming, High Heaven, Planet of the Nerds, Penultiman, and Billionaire Island. But we'll keep the focus on Wrong Earth for now. Wilson, what did you think of the book?
All right, so this book is very interesting just based on the premise alone of very much taking a lot of inspiration from the Batman mythos, but still having a lot of originality to it, which I thought was very well done. In my opinion, it's kind of like because of what happens with Dragonfly and Dragonfly Man switching Earths. It's kind of like a deconstruction of a superhero universe, not just of a superhero. Because you see, Dragonfly Man comes from the Adam West boom pow universe, and the tone is a lot lighter, and everything's just kind of brighter basically in that universe, from the villains to the colors to how they talk to each other to how he is able to communicate with police and everything, compared to Dragonfly, who is on Earth Omega, which is much the grittier, Frank Miller Batman.
I wanted to say Frank Miller, but I didn't want to actually give any credit to Frank Miller.
Yeah, we can cut that out. That's a good point. We'll cut out that. That's more the edgy type of Batman that when they switch worlds, you kind of have to see how they adapt to it. And the thing I liked most, they figure out pretty quickly that it happened.
Yeah, they could have easily spent a whole issue on just, where am I? What's going on? Oh, this is different. But they get all that out of the way really quickly.
Exactly, which is something I kind of forgot because as we've said in the first episode, when we're rereading, there are things that we'll see again or we'll realize. And one of the things I realized is, one, they switch Earths pretty quickly, but two,
it's the inciting incident happens right at the start.
Exactly, but they also then don't dwell on how did this happen. What it's like. I feel like that's not too much of a spoiler because it's still non spoilers, but they just don't dwell on it. They basically accept that the audience knows what happened, so should the characters. And I love that. I love that they didn't waste time.
Right, which
basically
gives us more time to get to know these new worlds, and from their perspective. And just another thing I appreciate about that, these are supposed to be Batman pastiches, and they'd have to be pretty stupid to not have to figure out what was going on. Like, it makes sense Batman would know this stuff.
Absolutely. What were some more of your thoughts? Because this is definitely something I know you love a lot.
Yeah. It's like I said before, I love comedies that can still surprise you and get you, because when you're watching a drama or you're watching a thriller, you know there's going to be some dark stuff happening. You know that there's going to be some stuff that really gets under your skin. It's when comedies do it that they can really get you, and this book has some moments that made me go, oh, that just happened.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
oh,
in
yeah.
particular. So yeah, I'd say, without, again, spoilers, I'd say my very favorite thing about the book is Dragonfly Man. He is not who you'd expect him to be based off the initial description.
Oh, I can agree with that, yes. Yeah, I think one of the things I really liked was watching Dragonfly Man figure everything out and sort of have to adapt to the world he was in, more so even than Dragonfly.
Yeah, Dragonfly was definitely where more of the comedy was, because he was in the more comedic world.
Yeah. But like Dragonfly Man, and which is why I think Dragonfly Man's probably the more interesting story, because he comes from the comedic world. He comes from the brighter, lighter world where, if you've seen Adam West, you know what that's like. So
this is a guy. This is a superhero who reports directly to the mayor and banker of his city.
Yes, and then he goes to this world where the cops are just as bad as the criminals. And
you mean like our world?
Yes. Well, yeah. It's much more grounded, and he has to figure that out. And again, because there's parts I want to say with him specifically, but that they're a bit too spoilery. But I really loved his storyline throughout this.
Yeah, his was where you got more of the shocking moments, but along with, I don't want to make it sound like Dragonfly story is all just, oh, dark and gritty, man, and silly world, because his story is where most of the heartwarming stuff comes in.
Yes, because there's because we are talking about how Dragonfly and Dragonfly Man are based on Batman. Dragonfly Man does have a sidekick named Stinger, who is, of course, if you kind of probably see where this is going, based on Robin. So when Dragonfly comes over, you learn something about Stinger pretty quickly, about what separates the two worlds, even with just Stinger. So when Dragonfly comes over, you get a lot of heartwarming stuff between him and Stinger, for sure.
It's funny. We're trying to keep this non-spoilery, but because of how humor-based the book is, it's hard to really talk about it, because, let's be real, there isn't much of a plot in this book. The characters are trying to get home, but they don't succeed in their goal.
Because that's really the whole thing. And
it's mostly just watching these characters in a new world without any specific storyline we're following. There's no 3-act structure here.
Yes, it's literally just... Because the thing that's interesting also, they're trying to get home, but they're also still trying to be the heroes that they are. Because they adapt to the world, but they don't necessarily forget who they are fundamentally in many ways, both good and bad.
They still go about their lives as if they were in their own worlds, because what else are they going to do while they're looking for a way to get home?
Exactly. So that's it, and it's one of those things that I thought was very well done and smart to do.
Yeah. Okay, I'm thinking we should move over to spoilers already, because basically, if you've got the idea, if you've heard what we're saying by now, you should know this is the kind of book you'd be into. Heartwarming stuff, dramatic stuff, lots of comedy, lots of laughs, and we can't really get into that because it's hard to describe humor and what makes one joke funnier than another without just ruining the joke. So, yeah, go check this book out, and go check out all of Ahoy's books. They are probably my favorite publisher right now.
Which is high praise, really is. Okay, so spoilers.
Okay, first, before we get into more of the spoilery details, I want to ask you a question.
Yep, no problem. Okay.
The two Earths are Earth Alpha and Earth Omega, right? I'm getting that right?
Yes.
Which one would you rather live
Earth.
on?
Oh, that's okay. That's a good question. Because both of them are, again, they have their strengths and weaknesses. Because one of the things I wanted to say, like Earth Alpha's villains are a lot more bombastic, which they would be, but they're also out there, doing heist and being a lot more obvious about what they're doing versus Earth Omega's villains.
They've also probably
Earth
never
Omega,
succeeded in killing anyone.
Yes, but then Earth Omega just seems so dour. It's just like, oh my god. So I want to say Earth Alpha,
but there is kind of that. But there is kind of that underlying darkness that we see through Dragonfly Man in that world.
Yeah, like obviously, like there's no real right answer, but there is I just think not necessarily a better world, but just a world I'm more likely to succeed in. And I think that would be Earth Alpha. Not even like succeed in terms of like financially or anything like that, but just
not
like
die,
living long enough. Yeah. And I think that would be Earth Alpha. What about you?
I want to say Earth Alpha, but how based on the 60s is this world? Like, would either of us be safe there?
Oh, yeah. Good point.
I mean, Dragonfly Man wasn't racist to Stinger 2 on Earth Omega, but is he the exception?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Huh? Now I'm rethinking it, because like you said earlier, Earth Omega is a lot like our Earth already, just in terms of. I mean, obviously it's a bit darker, because there's actual superheroes and villains and things like that.
Right, and there's this like mass bodies and guts being blown everywhere.
Yeah, so it is darker in that regard, but it's not as if. We don't know how to deal with corrupt cops or something.
It probably isn't that different from our world. Just you have a chance of getting killed by a killer clown.
Yes. Okay. One of my favorite scenes in not Earth Omega, the Wrong Earth on Earth Omega, I believe it's in issue 3 or 4, is when Dragonfly Man is just walking around and everyone's just scared of him. So you really know, just based on that scene, how Dragonfly was in this world. He's like the Punisher Batman-esque type of character. So as long as basically I'm not doing anything bad, I think he'd leave me alone. And
though the existence of a Punisher type figure, considering what we know about vigilante justice in the real world, is kind of horrifying.
Yeah, it's definitely
terrible.
I'd
probably be scared about. I'd probably have nightmares about the idea of running into Dragonfly.
Yes, which is why everyone, I think there was one dude who was just driving, saw him, and he just turned and crashed his car because it's like, oh my god, he's here. What if he hurts me? Which is a terrifying thought. And it's like, how can you consider yourself a superhero if that's how regular civilians react to you?
The Punisher is a villain, everybody. Get that through your heads. You are not supposed to root for him.
Oh, jeez.
Also, he always ends up joining the evil side in the big events. Secret Empire, Civil War. Have you noticed this? Dragonfly would totally be pro-registration, wouldn't he?
Oh, Dragonfly is totally pro-registration. Are you kidding me? Oh, yeah. Definitely. Anyway.
Even when talking about the best of indie comics, we still got to shit on the worst of the big two.
Well, that's just fun. I mean, we could do a whole podcast on just how terrible all that is.
That's what our Twitter chat is for.
That's what all we discuss on Twitter. But I guess so. I think, being optimistic, I think I could still choose Earth Alpha.
Okay. It's probably safer, but at the same time, my favorite moment of the book is where we see just the darkest element of it, and that is in how Dragonfly Man treats his prisoners and his extrajudicial force.
Oh, which is interesting.
That moment, the wait after that cliffhanger and leaving me for the next month, I was shaking. I was ready for the next issue. Because
I just realized this is opposite of how we read Dead Legends, where I read issue by issue and you read the trade. This one, I didn't read the trade. I like got every issue, but I read it all in one. And you read this one issue by issue.
Yeah. How are you feeling after that? Because I was just like, oh my god, that was the moment that made me go from, oh, this is a fun comedy to, oh my god, this series is really has something to say.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting that he's the one that did that but it's what made it interesting was how he justified it. Like, he's like, hey, I can just lock up people for as long as I feel like it. And
I have authorization from the mayor.
Yeah, I have the authorization to do this. And it's just like, that's actually extremely scary that the mayor was just like, yeah, this vigilante can lock up people for however long they want. It's like, whoa, who gave the authorization
and then the
to
stuff
this guy?
That he fed them.
Yeah. And I think that it's kind of one of those things where it's like, I'm going to feed them, but I don't have to feed them good stuff. It's just like, you're my prisoners. I'm not going to be nice to you, which really just, and one of the things that you see as the series goes on is, despite how different their worlds were and how different the Foundation is, they're actually extremely alike in many ways, which also, again, like you said, with the darkness overtone of Earth Alpha, and then seeing just how Dragonfly Man really cements himself pretty firmly in Earth Omega, not necessarily easily, but he finds his footing there pretty quickly.
When you're treated as always doing the right thing and everything always works out, how can anyone ever tell you what you're doing is wrong?
Exactly. Because one of the things that constantly happens, like, he gets shot at the end of the first issue, Dragonfly Man, when he first gets to Earth Omega. So you're just kind of like, so what, he's just dead? But of course, and then he gets blown up later, and you're just like, wait, so he just these things keep happening, but then they go back and said, I just sprayed on some anti-bullet cream or whatever.
And anti-explosion spray.
Yeah, so it's like, so don't worry, nothing can hurt me. Which is totally believable for Earth Alpha, but the fact, I love that they brought that over to Earth Omega and just made it work anyway.
There's a common idea, like, that gag characters could, no matter how big and strong your heroic protagonist is, they're no match for what a gag character can do, and Dragonfly Man kind of has that on his side. It shows you that, as goofy as he is, the Bat-Tusi might be too much for the goddamn Batman.
It's really well done. And the weird thing is, it's still believable, even though, just because we know the world he comes from. You buy it because they
established the rules of these Earths.
Exactly. They again, saying how they switched Earths as quickly as they did within like the first couple of pages, because we know what's inspired these Earths, and just because they did still a very good job establishing the foundation of these Earths. When they do switch, it doesn't feel like it's happening too quickly. It's like, I don't know who these characters are. It's like, no, we know who they are basically immediately. So switching them as quickly as they do isn't as jarring as it could have been.
Right. Were you surprised at all that Stinger 2 stuck with Dragonfly Man to the end?
I was. I felt like I liked that Stinger 2 happened. It felt very Jason Todd a little bit.
Well, technically, he'd be Tim Drake.
I was going to say a mix of Jason and Tim.
So, like how every adaptation does that.
Basically. Because, like, the background of Jason, sort of, in terms of sort of being an orphan and not really having a place to go.
Right.
But with the
replacing the dead Robin of Tim.
Yeah. But basically replacing, but with Tim, mentality basically of really wanting to do good.
Yeah.
Which is why when speaking of the prisoners, he's the one that he called the police, and he's like, because you're torturing these guys. And he's like, what are you doing with prisoners that you're just keeping locked up? And then, so with Stinger 2, I was surprised that he was able to convince him to stick around.
Right.
But I do feel like I was honestly more surprised that he convinced him to not kill.
But who convinced who to not kill?
That Dragonfly Man convinced Stinger 2 to not kill. Because he was ready to kill those guys that tried to kill him.
Makes sense. That's what you do in the real world.
exactly. So, but he's like, no, we have to be better than them. But okay. I shouldn't be surprised he convinced them. But I guess I expect more back and forth with that.
Okay.
Just based off how he was raised in this world of kill or be killed, basically.
I guess it was part of what the book was saying about how even despite its nature over nurture, how these people on both Earths are the same. They've just been affected differently by their environments.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think that. Because then on like the flip side with Dragonfly, pretty early in the book, I want to say like issue 2, he kills one of the villains. Like
okay, we'll get to the gags in a bit, and our favorite gags. That had me laughing off my ass. That was amazing.
It was ridiculous. Like he just drops in and just shoots the guy. Like what? On TV, like this is happening on television.
I am the greatest evil, and I'm being riddled with bullets.
It was so good. It was good. I loved it. And so, but then like everyone sees that, and then the Stinger of that world sees that, and like that's a no kill at all, world. And Stinger's just, and then when Stinger sees Dragonfly, he's like, what's going on? And then Dragonfly's just like, oh yeah, he's fine.
He's in witness protection.
Yeah, he's fine. He's witness protection.
And I guess
it was all a ruse.
That's a good transition to go over to Dragonfly, because we haven't talked about him much yet.
Okay, yeah. So Dragonfly is interesting. Dragonfly, he's from the Earth Omega. He's much darker. You learn through, I'm going back to Dragonfly Man for just a second, but you learn through when Dragonfly Man initially goes to the original Stinger's room, that Stinger died on Earth Omega. So with Dragonfly Man, when he sees Stinger, he kind of breaks down. He's just like, whoa, you're still alive on this Earth. You're still here. And it affects him greatly.
Yeah. He's the emotional core of this story.
Yeah.
Like, Dragonfly Man is who gets you interested. Dragonfly is who keeps you attached.
For sure. He's definitely the emotional through line. Because not even just that, you have so much you have him. Oh God, what was her name?
Deuce,
yes, because when Stinger gets stabbed,
there's kind of only one female character in the story. It wasn't hard to guess.
Yeah, which I knew who it would be. She's kind of their Harley Quinn of this story.
I may like her more than Harley. I kind of like her more than Harley, yeah.
Oh, I definitely like her more than Harley. But mixed with a little bit of Catwoman, at least in Earth Alpha. But I think the just based on,
I don't know, there are plenty of Bat Harley shippers out there.
Yeah, that's true. Which I'm not into that at all. But anyway, I'm not into that at all. But she kind of hints, like when the main villain of the piece, his name is Number One, who is their Joker. When he goes through the mirror initially, from Earth Omega to Earth Alpha, which he's the main villain.
Well,
he stabs Stinger.
There's a bigger bad, but we'll get to him at the end.
Yeah. Okay. But well, they kind of teased him. He wasn't as
for this mini, he's the main villain.
Yeah, to be fair, I haven't read the sequels yet, so I don't know where this goes just yet.
Well, the second one is a prequel. The actual sequel's only recently just started.
Oh, okay, cool. When he stabs Stinger, she basically is trying to save the kid. Trying to save Stinger.
We're villains.
We
don't kill people.
Yeah, which was just like, okay, who are you? It's just like, wow, you have a heart. And I love the scene when she's in the courtroom, and she's basically talking, which I don't know if that's really just meant to be, which maybe it is just meant to be a commentary on how pretty girls can talk their way out of anything, but she talks her way out of jail, and her what do you call them?
Henchmen,
yeah, out of going to jail. and like on their Earth, I guess that's absolutely possible.
Yeah, it pulls triple duty as a funny gag, commentary on the judicial system, and commentary on how pretty white people can talk the way out of anything.
Seriously.
But now Deuce is great. She starts, like you said, she's the Harley Quinn of this world. But you quickly get to since number one quickly leaves the story. Her number one, the comedic number one, who does he even get a line before he's killed?
He talks before he's killed. No, because it's like narration. Because Stinger 2 basically is like, yeah, this new guy showed up, trying to boss us around, and we just like they tied him to a chair. And then we learned that he was killed pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Which I'm kind of iffy on that. Like, I kind of wish he got a little bit more to do on this world before he was killed. I get why he died so quickly. Yeah,
it would have been nice.
No, like,
it wasn't essential, but it would have been nice.
No.
Just like a scene.
I get why.
A scene. A single gag.
Exactly. I get why he died quickly, because when you bring that to that Earth, that's not going to last. At all, especially in the villain landscape that world presents.
Right. But so Deuce quickly takes over the crime in Earth Alpha, and she is just a riot as this comedic mob boss.
I loved her. Yeah. And the thing I love most is basically because she already knows. We learned she knows who Dragonfly Man is. She knows where his hideout is, which means she must have been there before, and she talks about how she wanted to sort of have a romantic relationship with the guy. So it's like, okay, what are you two doing on your off time? Because it's like you guys have a whole subplot happening here through her dialogue alone, because he's not there obviously to say anything. But then at the end, even Dragonfly's like, hey, you want to go out? It's like, wait.
And even before then, they were already kind of acting like parents towards Stinger.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the way they both genuinely care about this kid was really wholesome.
Yeah, for sure.
With Deuce more because obviously, she's the villain, but she has an affectionate side for this kid who's always foiling her plans, while Dragonfly is just trying to hold back tears the whole time.
Yeah. One of the things, speaking of number one, I think number one, this isn't really a critique or anything, just a thing that made me go, holy crap, that is brutal, is the way Earth Omega's number one dies.
Oh, that was horrifying. The art there. We haven't talked about the art yet. We'll get to that.
Oh, but we'll get to the art, which is amazing, of course.
Bless you, Jamal Eichel. But no, that death scene was horrifying.
Oh my god. And I've completely, again, it's one of those things when the reread, I completely forgot, because I knew both of them died. I remembered that. Because I was like, I know both of them died, but I did not remember how they died. And then when, you saw Earth Alpha's one die, I'm like, oh, wow, that was kind of anticlimactic, but I get it. But it was when... Chip, breaks the... They cross over through different Earths in a mirror. So Chip breaks the mirror and it kind of ruins it. Oh, Stinger, yeah. On Earth Alpha. Breaks the mirror, and one of the things... And then they put it back together, but it's still cracked, and he just goes straight through, and you just see it tear to his skin, and then he just explodes. I was like, okay, I did not remember that. I was just like, whoa, that is brutal.
It is absolutely gruesome, and in terms of the creativity of the paneling, I'd go so far as to say it's on par with Guru Huru's work on Unbelievable Gwenpool.
Yeah, it's amazing paneling, absolutely.
Before we get to the gags, do you want to talk about the art so long as we touched on that?
Yeah, let's talk about the art. One of the things that really makes this art stand out more than a lot of other things is this one really had to have a distinct visual language between both Earths, so that you knew which Earth you were in. And even before they did the switch, you had to know what this Earth was. And they did that wonderfully with the art and the colors, because Earth Alpha, you get brighter colors, you get everything's just a little bit more goofy in just the way everything's designed, from all the costumes of the villains, even the costume of Dragonfly Man,
and everything's
versus Earth.
Even everything is kind of smoother, the less angles, more circular.
Yes, versus Earth Omega, which is meant to be more grounded, so it's toned down in its colors. It's darker. It's grittier in the arts.
And there are a lot of lazy ways this could have been handled, just like, oh, just desaturate the colors, oh, just have more drab looking buildings. No, they go all in on very making it clear these are two separate worlds and they do not look the same at all.
Yeah, and even then, but yet the colors are still vibrant in both worlds. It's like you said, they didn't make the colors drab.
Yeah,
like they didn't
that
just
the lazy way
brown everything. Exactly, they didn't just make everything brown on Earth Omega. It's like, no, there's still color, which is great. Like,
both dragonflies are still dressed in green and purple spandex.
Yes. But one of the things, Dragonfly Man says when he first gets to the Earth with Dragonfly is like, this guy's more military.
Yeah.
And you can see that with because like with Dragonfly Man, he has goggles, but with Dragonfly, it's all built within the cowl itself. Mm-hmm. So his is more streamlined to just make it easier to go through. But Jamal Igle, he's been in the business for forever. He absolutely rocked the art in this book, and the colors. I don't remember the guy's name. Sorry about that. By
the colors,
Andy Troy.
Yeah.
By Andy Troy. He did a wonderful job. So yeah, it was, the art really is amazing in this book.
Yeah, like, I have a hard time picking my favorite Ahoy book, but I'd say pretty easily this is my favorite art in any Ahoy book.
Yeah,
have you read any other Ahoy?
I haven't read. I think I read some of the. I remember they did the like what book they wanted to put out next. Yes, that I read that. I don't remember which one I voted for, but I remember reading those, and those were good. I just saw like Penultimate Man was out.
Penultimate, that's wrapping up this week.
Okay, so I guess that maybe that won that steel cage.
Oh no,
thing.
they decided they're making all three series, just one at a time.
Oh, it was just which one was going to come out first?
No, it was originally going to be only one of them will get made, but the response was so positive to all of them that they decided to make all three.
Oh, okay, awesome. But regardless, I haven't read too much yet, but obviously a lot of them are on my list of a million things to read. So, and we'll be talking about more Ahoy, so best believe I will be reading plenty.
I'll make you. We forgot to talk more about number one actually as a character. We just got straight to his death.
Yeah, that's true. As a character, I thought number one was fine as a character.
I'm sorry, you go on.
No, I was going to say, I think they established him pretty early as a formidable villain. Like, I believed he would be, in both sides too, just within the world that they were in, I believed he would be that Joker-esque villain that Dragonfly Man would have to deal with constantly. And that he would have, even though Earth Omega, I don't know if they hinted even at one, or if they, or if she died, or I don't know if they ever hinted at a Deuce in Earth Omega.
I don't think there were any hints about that.
Yeah.
Like he was completely dismissive towards Deuce on Earth Alpha.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm assuming one existed, but one definitely
maybe she tried being his girl and he just killed her.
Yeah, something happened to her. Like, she died, she left most likely she died. Based on who Earth number one is on Earth Omega, she most likely died. But as a character, yeah. I thought he was a good villain. Like, I could understand Dragonfly rushing, basically, especially in Earth Alpha, to get him as soon as possible, because he was the threat, more so than anyone else, any other villains that the mayor would constantly call him about. It's like, no, I need to get this guy. He needs to get off this world, because he, like we said, they knew pretty quickly that they were on different Earths. So he's like, you guys have an actual murderer running around here.
Right.
You need to stop pestering me about these other villains, because they mean nothing to this guy. I don't need to
deal with evil chefs right now.
Yeah. Like, he's like, no.
And I swear I'm not trying to crap on DC, but the book kind of invites the comparison. I'd say he's
Oh, it does. Oh, yeah.
kind of scarier than modern Joker because you see him take hits. You see even Deuce is able to knock him around a bit, but he'll still repeatedly stab you in the gut. He's scarier because he's more realistic, more human, while still being an absolute monster.
For sure. It doesn't feel like only Dragonfly can take him down. But which, with Joker, it feels like only Batman's allowed to take him in. And it's just kind of ridiculous. It's like all these people should be able to stop this guy, but only Batman can do it. But with Dragonfly, it's like, no, anyone can do it. The problem is
that Earth just isn't really equipped to handle him.
Exactly. The Earth he's on is the problem, which is another reason why I like Deuce so much, because Zeus kicks his ass.
She's just a straight badass.
Yeah, I like her a lot. So it's just one of those things where he's scary, not just because he's a mass murderer, but because of the Earth he's on isn't really equipped to deal with someone of his caliber.
Right.
Whereas with Joker, it's like, no, everyone in the Bat family should be able to take this guy at any time. They just don't because he's crazy. It's like, come on.
Would you say number one was crazy, or is he just evil?
No, I think he's just evil. I didn't get a crazy off of him at all. Not in the way Joker was. Like, I think he's just evil.
Yeah.
Like, he knows exactly what he's doing.
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is a comedy, so do you have anything in your notes about your favorite gags? We talked about the one guy getting blown away, but anything else?
On Earth Omega, when Dragonfly Man goes to the villain bar and he gets into a fight and he says pow, crack, wham as he's fighting all these villains.
If the onomatopoeia aren't going to spontaneously appear, you got to say them yourself.
You got to say it, and I love that. Because the thing I really love about it is its character, because after he does it, he just feels better. Like, I love how they mix that in with character, because he's like, you know what? I can survive here. And I love that. I just love that he's like, I feel so much better right now. And I just thought, like, I'm like, he just needed to kick a bunch of ass. Good for you. I love that. One of the things that this book really does well is just the way it handles the tone of everything. Even it's a lighter tone on that Earth, but like, you think about it for 5 seconds, it's like, wow, that's actually really dark. And this was one of the things where people are just, they want, we want grounded, gritty, realistic, dark tones and everything. It's like, well, you can still have a lighter side in your superhero stuff and still get plenty of dark overtones in things that happen.
Exactly.
Just, good writing. I think one of the things, because after the police show up, we talked about this a bit, the police showed up to Dragonfly Man, who was keeping the other cops prisoners, and through that entire interaction, they're basically trying to convince them, shoot this guy, shoot Dragonfly Man. He was poisoning us. He was doing all these things. And he's just standing there like, I would never do that. I'm a upstanding citizen. And then the cop's just like, I don't know. And he's like, I'm going to pay you. But again, that's more of showing the similarities than showing him necessarily becoming Dragonfly.
Right. He's still willing to go that darker angle. He's willing to play into the corruption. Exactly.
He's like, hey, if you guys are corrupt, then I'll be your highest bidder, and we'll work like just how I worked with the cops and the mayor on my Earth. I'm going to make that work for me here too.
It makes you wonder just how dirty the mayor and banker that he worked for were on Earth Alpha, because we know how bad they were on Omega.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. I think that might be something they could explore later. Because I'm assuming they'll probably do this as minis for, the foreseeable future, depending on, how well it continues to do.
Yeah, and this is kind of the format you're into. You're a huge supporter of the idea of just continuous minis.
Yes, this still basically on what Wrong Earth, but that is something that I think more books should do. Indie, Big Two, doesn't matter, just because you get a complete story out of it. Like, if this was the only Wrong Earth book you've read ever, like, if they, for whatever reason, it didn't do well and they just never got a chance to do a second one, this is still a complete story. They both just end up on each other's Earths, and they have to deal with that. That's it. That's how it ends.
The only real conclusion is that they come to accept where they are, and the biggest threat is dealt with.
Exactly. Like, that's it. Like, and that's an ending to a book. It's not, it may or may not satisfy you. You can critique it on that if you want, but which I thought was fine. I think that makes sense, and especially knowing now that there is more coming, there's always more they can do. But and they also, we didn't say this, but they do tease there's another Earth. And,
I was about to get to that after we talked about this.
Yeah, but I do think I don't want to spend too much time because again I could go on like in hours about this. But I do think minis just, you do a mini, you tell a complete story. If it sells well, you do another mini following up the events of what happened in the previous mini. But again, it's its own complete story, because then if people find like the second or the third one, they can go back and pretty easily and find the older ones. Usually even by then they'll be in trades and you can just read it all in one sitting. So yeah, I think basically ongoing should basically be left for like the really big characters that can do that monthly build, like Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, because they're already getting all the ongoings anyway. Yeah. So do more minis for the smaller characters. So yeah, but I digress.
As we start to wrap up, let's talk about the big twist at the end.
Yes, which again, this is another thing that I completely forgot about. Like I was actually shocked again. Which again, this is my second time reading this, so I knew a lot of what was happening, but I was just going through reading. And I was like, okay, I remember, because I couldn't remember if they did or didn't get off each other's Earths. But I was like, I'm pretty sure they didn't. So I was reading, I'm like, yeah, they didn't. Yeah, okay. So I was just going, they kept talking about, they have this through line of the water tasting like battery acid. And something I was like, okay, that has to lead to something, but I have no idea where that's going. But they kept bringing it up to the point that it's obvious that's leading to something. So then at the big twist,
Chekhov's battery water.
Yes, there's a third Earth, and there's another new number one that felt more Lex Luthor than Joker.
He's the Lex Luthor number one. He's the one who gave the other ones the mirrors. He is responsible for all of this, and we have no idea what his end game is. Yeah,
so like I said, I didn't read the prequel or the current sequel that's going on just yet, but I think that's amazing. Like that tease very much, oh, there's so much more happening than just what we thought was happening.
For all we know, there's an entire multiverse. After all, DC started out with only 2 Earths too. Yeah. I mean, so it's a very good. This thing is going to end with just like a whole army of dragonflies, isn't it? There's going to be there's going to be anime dragonfly, robot dragonfly, Spider-Verse. It's shit.
It's gonna go full Power Rangers Shattered Grid on this. Like that would be amazing. Just a crap ton of Dragonfly mans of all Earths. God,
all art styles. Get a whole bunch of different artists for the splash page.
That would be pretty amazing. And the weird thing is, there's so many Batman interpretations. They can literally do
like every one of them can be a Batman pastiche. Yeah.
Oh my god! Like every single one of them could. I kind of want that. No, I just want to see what it would look like that splash page of all of them just standing there and seeing how many. If you can pick out which one is inspired by what Batman
that'd be so
interpretation.
Good. I want this now.
Yeah, I kind of want that now.
Tom Payer, if you're listening to this for some reason, actually don't listen to this. Now you can't use the idea if you hear it.
Yes, this is ours. Don't I really hope Tom Payer and Jamal weren't listening to this one.
Okay, so final thoughts on the book.
Yeah, but yeah, overall thoughts. It's a great book. I highly recommend it. It's 6 issues. It's a pretty quick read, honestly. They do have, which something we didn't mention, Ahoy Comics. Which you told me about, because this is the only one I've really read, but they do have backups.
There are backup stories in a more comic strip art style, and in every single Ahoy book you get extra pro stories so you get more bang for your buck.
which is really cool. I like that they do that, in the back instead of in the middle of the book. But I'm not calling anyone out. But anyway, because then I feel like I already read the book, and then if I want to read more, sure. But I want to be flipping through my comic and then have to read a letter that won't matter forever. But anyway, overall, this comic is really good. The art is amazing. The characters are well written and well developed. Even it's a thin plot, but generalized plots are not bad things. You don't always need to have complex plots to tell good stories. So you can have very simple plots, but as long as they're told in extremely well ways, you can follow that through line, and it can be done extremely well. So I highly recommend this one.
Okay, and as for my thoughts, I love it. I'm the one who got you to read this. I've been gushing about it this whole time. Comedy, drama. See, when a book can do both right, you got me hooked. When you got good characters like Deuce and Dragonfly, you got me hooked. It does everything I need a comic to do. Beautiful art, great writing, and... Shit, we forgot to talk about the lettering. Oh my god, I hate when people forget to talk about the lettering.
Yeah, lettering. Lettering's great. Oh, jeez. Because it does the whole Adam West Batman. They do that a little bit in Earth Alpha, where the lettering sort of takes control of the narrative. Mm-hmm. So yeah, lettering's great. Sorry about that.
Actually, on the website right now, I'm noticing they don't have their letterer accredited.
I wrote it somewhere.
Yeah, so do I, but it's not on the website. I think they're just listed under extras. That's lame. But anyway, it is time for our brand new scoring system. Wilson, what onomatopoeia do you give this story?
Onomatopoeia. Like, out of what, like 5?
No, because, for example, I will be giving this story a Pam, wow, kapla!
Oh, okay, yeah, good point. Mine's a kaboom!
Very nice, high praise. You don't give a kaboom to every story.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Wilson, please take us out.
Oh, crap. Mic fell. All right. So, yeah, you can follow me at Dead Letter Poets on Twitter and Tumblr.
And you can follow me at Bobby L. Singer on Twitter. And you can email me at samuel.singer98@gmail.com. If you got any comics you want us to check out and talk about, send us our way. We are in the mood for any great indie comics from any publisher.
And you can email me at smithwilson72@gmail.com. I check my email every day. So, again, seriously, any indie comic, any publisher, we are excited to really be talking about indie comics because not all of them really get the praise they deserve. So that's why we're here, and that's what we love talking about.
Right, and we read more indie comics than most people, I'd say, but there are so many out there. We can't read them all and be aware of them all.
Oh, my God. Like, we're starting with rereads, but we will get to ones that we haven't read yet.
However, next time will not be such a case, as for episode 3, we will be discussing from Vault Comics, Maxwell's Demons. Which will be the first time I've read this book. So I'm really excited. I've been waiting for him to read this forever. I'm so excited! Yeah. It's going to be really interesting to see what it's about. I love the premise. So we'll talk more about that later, though. See you all next time. Bye.